Hey guys, good morning. Rath here with the DFS Minute for July 15, 2015. And coming back in here talking about FanDuel raising $275 million, the Series E round, and now reaching a $1 billion valuation, which is called in the financial industry the unicorn status. So let's get into it. Yesterday morning, word came out, which we had expected, and we did speculate on the state of DFS shows. You know, the middle of July is when we see a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We saw some of that in the middle of June. Leading up until the middle of July, it actually Dan Strafford over at Fancy Insiders, who does great work on their podcast, had said, "Hey, I'm waiting to hear some NFL news," and basically had told them, you know, probably not going to hear any NFL news, but do expect that we start hearing some information about FanDuel and DraftKings funding. And sure enough, 24 hours later, we got that. So, you know, we're definitely on the pulse of what's going to happen in the DFS industry. Myself, Jason have worked, you know, exclusively inside these companies as consultants, as operations and marketing managers, along with Dustin, who's got the legal background and expertise, whether it's in DFS and poker. So I think we have a great team assembled. When we talk about covering the industry, I don't think there's anybody that can come close to the experience and knowledge and insight that we have in this space. And so when we get into this, FanDuel, you know, this is something we expected, didn't know the details, but $275 million investment round, probably the last investment round that they're going to have. We'll talk about why, because basically at this point, whenever you raise money, you have to give out equity. And while there's probably not a lot of equity left in the company, if any at all, the thing is that when you start divvying up the pie a number of different ways, but the valuation starts growing to the point where you're hitting a billion, you know, 1% of a billion is pretty attractive, where if you're only a company worth $10 million, $100 million, et cetera, you know, 1% to guys is not as attractive. So they're okay with watering down their equity and because the valuation has grown to the point where it's through the roof. So that's where they're able to come in and raise additional funds and have it make sense and keep pushing the envelope. So, you know, $1 billion valuation at this point, $363 million of total capital raised, which is an impressive feat for anybody in any industry, but certainly in DFS. This is great. Some of the major names in this, and pretty interesting because I had mentioned to Benny Ricciardi, one of our members here at Roto Curve, who does some great work with us. I said, I have a feeling that Google and Microsoft are going to be two names that you're going to hear in these funding rounds. And sure enough, Google came in on this round of funding with FanDuel. You got Google, you got Time Warner, and Turner Sports are the three kind of new people that have jumped in here. Very interesting. You've got media partners coming in, Time Warner, Turner. Definitely no coincidence there. So that's good news for us, good news for the industry. The other thing that I think a lot of people maybe have overlooked, if you read the press release, it says various NFL and NBA owners are also in play here. So I think that's very interesting that you've got these professional sports teams who FanDuel has done deals with now saying, hey, I want a piece of the pie. Let me come in and let me buy in for, you know, whether it's, you know, 1% or 2%, whatever it is, with the expectation that there's going to be some future news and expanded growth in the space. So Shamrock has been one of the investment partners in previous rounds. They're also in play here. And also NBC and Comcast have also bought back in as well. So you kind of see these big companies now, not just venture capital firms, but major media companies involved in daily fantasy sports. And that's what we talked about. I talked about it back in April. I said that be aware that DFS is going to explode in the media, especially on TV when in terms of content. And I can definitely tell you that it's coming, whether it's going to be this year, next year, definitely in the next 12 to 14 months, there's going to be a lot more content on your television screen when it comes to daily fantasy sports. So definitely be on the lookout for that. In the press release, FanDuel mentioned that, you know, of course, kind of the standard of where they're going to spend their money, you know, obviously it's on customer acquisition, which is marketing and advertising, not just, you know, bigger prizes, things like that. I think you're going to just see the name FanDuel everywhere humanly possible. New products, features, and growth initiatives. So one of the things that we have seen with FanDuel over the last couple of months, we've seen them improve their product quite a bit. Whether, you know, I've talked about their Android product, which is tremendous. They've actually upgraded their web product, which is their lineup page was upgraded with alerts of where the player is actually in the lineup, which is pretty sweet. And now they've just revamped their lobby. It looks like they've redone their lobby. It looks really sweet. They got a qualifier / satellite tab, which was desperately needed, and a better feel and a better layout. Also, their live scoring pages are going to be updated as well. So, I'm really glad that FanDuel is moving forward with the look and the feel of this site, because it definitely felt stale, felt like 2008, 2009. Not a lot's really changed on that site. So I think they definitely are moving into a better age, a better look, a better feel. So this is all leading up to whether or not we think that FanDuel is going to have an IPO starting next year. We did talk about it on State of DFS, and I have mentioned it. It certainly does look like early 2016 is what they're looking at. Just really depends on how the numbers shake out. The numbers in football should be pretty huge, whether or not they actually execute the beginning of 2016 or the middle of 2016. The middle of 2016 would make sense because you get the infusion of cash leading into football. But again, if you started at the beginning of the year, sorry about that, guys. You start at the beginning of the year, you get that money for the whole entire calendar year. So it's just going to be depending on where they're at. And the thing is right now FanDuel's not profitable. They're in growth mode. They're in stealth mode. And so really what this comes down to is, when does FanDuel become profitable? Nigel's been on record as saying, hey, if we stop marketing tomorrow, we become profitable tomorrow. Well, you can't stop marketing right now until you scale to the point where you feel comfortable enough where you start maybe taking the brakes off, and that's definitely not the case yet. So, just be on the aware that you're going to see FanDuel everywhere coming up in 2016, 2015, and that's our take on it here at the DFS Minute and RotoCurve. Stay tuned for more DFS Minute videos this week, and as we say here at RotoCurve, stay classy, DFS.